And I remember just kind of taking a breath before and calming myself down and saying, like I said, I'm putting on this jersey. This is what I've dreamed about since I was a kid. I got the chance to wear the Toronto Maple Leafs jersey. And I remember going out there for the first shift and like come back to the bench, like out of breath. I'm like, well, I'm in shape. Why am I out of breath? And it's just because like everything's going, your nerves are going.
You're all worked up.
Every stride you take is 100%.
That was Zack Hyman. And this is the Carrick podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Carrick podcast. I'm your host, current New Jersey Devils defenseman, Carrick. On our podcast, we talk about high performance, mental and physical well-being. We try to become curious about the quest of our guests and how they've achieved such excellence in their respective fields. Our guest today is former teammate of mine, Toronto Maple Leaf Zack Hyman. He is a veteran of 302 NHL games. He also is an accomplished children's book author, on top of owning his own e-gaming company, E11 Gaming, which he claims is a professional esports organization launched in 2018, one of the most successful Fortnite squads in the world. I have to take him at his word. I don't play Fortnite. He also hosts the Zack Hyman Celebrity Golf Classic every summer, continuing to round out his platform and his influence and his community there in Toronto, where he calls home. I am very excited to talk to Zack. Grateful for our time together. I loved going to war with him as a teammate. I have a lot of respect for him, whether I'm playing with or against Zack Hyman. So let's do it today. Hymes, thanks, man. Because I'm super excited about our talk today. Because I've played with probably more teammates than I would like with the trades, but we always got along really well. And I just had a respect for your craft and how you did a really nice job knowing exactly who you were every day you came to the rink. You brought a level of consistency to your game and to your effort level that, I think as a young professional, it can be a lot for people to develop. I think it was something that you naturally, it's just a part of who you are. And, I wanted to start with, professionally in hockey, and we'll get to what you're doing in the community of Toronto for charity and what you're doing with the gaming company, because I know nothing about gaming, so you're going to have to walk me through it.
All right.
But, as a young player in the greater Toronto area, like the NHL hockey's everything.
Oh, yeah.
And what was you had 5 boys, you're the oldest of 5 in your family. I'm the oldest of 3 boys. Who was responsible for your development growing up? Who were some of the coaches, your dad? What was it like being the oldest brother in a family of 5?
Yeah, man, it was and is still wild. As you know, in a house of boys, our basement was littered with holes and, mini sticks were thrown and broken and, lots of bruises, but it was fun, man. It was fun growing up in our house. We always had all of our friends would always come to our house. So our house was kind of like the hub on the street where we'd play road hockey and all that stuff. And you kind of nailed on the head with Toronto. And, growing up in Toronto, every kid, you want to be a hockey player and you want to play for the Leafs. There are some small Montreal fans who had family in Montreal, and they came over, and they're always the kid in class wearing the Habs jersey, and everybody's like, "Boo! Like, what are you doing?" Like, there's always one of them, but for the most part, 99% of all kids who grew up here are born Leaf fans, right? So, it's a long journey to get to the NHL. Everybody wants to get there, and I'm really lucky in the sense that everything kind of fell in line for me to have the opportunity to even play on the Leafs, and it's a long road, and I guess we'll go into it a little bit, but man, it's been fun, and happy to be on. Thanks for having me. We'll have some fun. Hopefully we can even tell the one time I stole a fitness belt from you.
Yeah, we'll get there. It'll be towards the end when hopefully all our listeners skip that part. But yeah, that's actually why I just got the Peloton upstairs, just in case, I have to do that treadmill test with Lou
Oh
Lamoriello
man.
again.
Yeah, that was no fun.
I actually want to, we'll get to the treadmill test, but like growing up, what is maybe the most, like I have a couple stories myself. What was like the biggest fight you and your brothers had with Shinny in the basement?
Oh, this kind of went outside the basement. Me and my brother Spence. This is like, it's classic. We played in a 3-on-3 league, and I think we might have been like 14 and 15 at the time. We're a year apart, and we were just like, I think we were just on each other all game. Like we were always competitive, and like you know how it is when you're on the ice with one of your brothers. You just give them shit. Like if they miss
Oh,
a pass,
100%.
like you're just like all over them. So he was either all over me or I was all over him, and we might have been losing in the game. And I remember, I think we went down on a 2-on-1, and I think he looked me off, and he just missed the net. And then all of a sudden, like we dropped the gloves, and we were just fighting, and we're on the same team. And this is like just like shinny hockey in summer, 3-on-3, and everybody like like all the other teammates and all the parents are looking at us like, what are wrong with these? What's wrong with these kids? They're on the same team. And the ref had to separate us, and we both got kicked off, and we had to go in. We went to the same locker room, and we laughed about it afterwards. But like, imagine a 3-on-3 game. We were just in a fight, so it was crazy.
A lot of people don't know about that trick, that if you don't want to back check, you just try and find somebody to fight on the way back. And you don't have to skate all the way.
Exactly.
My brother and I remember I was playing goalie. I always thought it was cool. I'd play goalie and I'd wear like this big shirt. So my ribs would have like wings. Yeah, I look like Jean Sebastian's, Jaguar in that. And my brother Blake, kneed me in the groin. He was trying to, get pucks in deep and drive the net hard. And I took this super ball like in a frenzy and absolutely chucked it at him. And to this day, I think it's like deep in the foundation of our home, like in the drywall. I don't know where this super ball was. I was so mad.
The wall absorbed it.
Yeah. So, growing up, what was sort of the hockey philosophy in your home? Because and just to comment on like what a mecca, the city of Toronto is for hockey. Like I was so jealous in youth tournaments. I'd go up to Toronto and catch TSN, and 7 of the 10 top 10s would be hockey plays.
Oh yeah.
8 of the top 10s. Whereas, I used to come home from school, my believe it or not, we could talk about, how we're both decently fitness freaks now, but I used to sit down with a thing of mint chocolate chip ice cream. It was an Edie's chocolate chip ice cream before practice every day. I'd watch Around the Horn on ESPN and just pray that like hockey highlights would come on, and
right.
But
yeah, no, I mean like, yeah, for me, it was only hockey highlights. Like I remember I'd wake up in the morning and have breakfast, and we have a small TV in our kitchen, and it was back in the day where you threw on channel 53 actually. And it would just be hockey highlights. It would just, be the all the goals that were scored the previous night, and I'd just sit there and eat that, and or eat breakfast and watch, and then I'd go to school, and we'd talk with all my friends about the Leafs game the night before, and recess we'd play ball hockey. It was just all hockey all the time, and then you'd come home, and most days you'd go to practice or you'd play a game, and or you'd have like skill work, and it was just hockey all the time, and it wasn't like overload for us because we just loved it. And when you like doing something, it's not, as it's not work, it's just fun. So that was kind of growing up in Toronto and just being consumed by hockey 24/7.
Who were some of your favorite? Because I'm really interested in this, because I think even when I would talk to like my brothers about knowing like what your strengths and weaknesses are on the ice, I don't know if I've ever played with a player as clear in what you're trying to do every night.
Yeah.
And when we were young, like we broke in still pretty young. Our opening night for the Leafs was the same night.
Yeah.
Your first NHL game was the day I got traded there.
February 29th.
February
Leap
29th.
Year.
That's it. 2016. Who did you model your game after growing up, or was that something that was maybe coached in you later in junior and in college?
Yeah, it was definitely later. I mean, I think that when you're trying to ascend the levels as a forward, you have to score goals and you have to put up points, and that's kind of for better or worse, that's really how you get noticed is by your statistics. So early on, you just try to be a goal scorer, a point scorer, and, you want to get to the next level. So that's kind of, in juniors, I scored a lot of points, and then I got to go to the University of Michigan, and that's kind of really where I learned how to play hockey. I got to be coached by Red Berenson and practice with all these first round, second round guys every day, and just compete against those guys. And as you know, in college, you play a shortened season, so you're really practicing more and you're working on your body and whatnot. So I remember I came into Michigan as this highly touted recruit. I won the CJHL Player of the year before, and I was like, man, this is gonna be easy. Like, I'm gonna walk in there and I'm gonna take off and I'll score a point a game, and it'll just be the same as it was. And I got in there, and boy, was I wrong. I had 9 points in my first 40 games. I didn't really know how to play a two-way game. I think that I just kind of just thought that I would pick up where I left off and score goals. And it wasn't for a lack of trying. Like, I always kind of, tried to be the best version of myself. I always worked hard. It just, the jump was pretty significant for me. And I remember Red Berenson kind of pulled me into his office after our end of the year team meeting after, my first year. And he says, Zach, you're doing all the right things. You're working hard. You just need to keep going and keep working and, have a positive attitude. And I think that, if you're going to make the NHL, you're going to really have to figure out, how you're going to make the NHL. Like, what are you going to be good at? Because, right now you're not scoring goals, you're not putting up points. So how are you going to make the NHL? And that kind of hit me like, man, if I can't score goals at the college level, like, how am I going to score goals at the next level? Like, what can I do better, than anybody else? What can I work on that, will separate me from other people? Because, there are tons of hockey players out there and they all have skill and everybody works on their skills. So I was like, what can I own? And that's really, I said, I'm pretty strong and pretty fast. So, can I go get the puck? Like, can I be on the puck all the time? Can I be hard to play against all the time? And he's like, he told me, he's like, the way you're going to make it to the next level is you got to be an elite penalty killer and you got to be an elite two-way player. And you can be, now the NHL is turning into, grinders who can score. So I said, okay, maybe I can do that. So I worked on it, worked on it a bunch, worked on all that stuff, worked on getting stronger because I was still like a 19-year-old kid in college. I had a lot of room to grow and develop. So I said, I'm going to work harder than anybody in the gym. I'm going to be one of the, most fit players. And I'm going to, do the things that, some guys don't want to do. I'm going to go into the corners and get the puck back. And then, maybe I'll be able to score later on. So I did it again. And my second year, I had 9 points again. And I'm like, shit, like,
I did it. What? Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I'm doing all these things. Like, I'm working my bag off. Like, I don't understand why haven't I taken the next jump? And I had the meeting with Red again. He's like, you're doing all the right things, Zach. Just, stick to the process. Keep doing it. Keep working hard. And I was like, yeah, okay. I'm just, there's nothing, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit here and sulk and cry about it? Or am I just going to keep, put my foot on the gas and keep going, right? So then I said, you know what, we'll keep going. So again, third year comes around and I had like 3 points in 17 games. I'm like, man, I'm on pace for 9 points again. Like, what is happening? And then kind of like I guess there's a switch flipped and I got moved up in the lineup. And then I finished the year off with, 15 points in 15 games. And then had a breakout year my senior year and kind of everything came together. But the key, I guess, was just to have the positive attitude and to just work hard and just work through it and to own something that other guys, don't have or don't want to do, right?
Well, you said something earlier, you were talking about, how everything kind of aligned for you growing up. You got lucky a bunch. And anybody that I think that plays in the NHL at our level, we respect just how hard it is, how congested the top of the NHL is, how hard it is to get there and stay there. And, when I hear your Michigan story, it's exactly the same principle I'm honestly trying to apply to my pro career is if you work hard enough, long enough, and you try to do, have the right habits in your game, you can maximize like the surface area of your luck. You can stick around long enough where, the sun shines on you and you get to play with a really dynamic player. Right now you play along, Austin Matthews and Johnny Tavares. You guys have a really dynamic group, with the Leafs and with Michigan. Who was it? JT Compher?
No, I ended up playing with Dylan Larkin in my
Larkin
last year.
was on the
Yeah, in
top
my
line.
senior
Okay.
year. So that was we worked well together.
And it's amazing how, if you're able to do that, you give yourself a chance. But if you don't have like the right habits and work ethic, and if you don't enjoy the process, like so many guys fade before they ever get a chance, to get lucky.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
I did want to talk a little bit about, how you ended up at Michigan, being an Ontario kid. So when I grew up, you discussed wanting to play for the Leafs. When I grew up, the Blackhawks were on TV. So the NHL was talked about, but like the big goal, coaches, it was Division I hockey.
Yeah.
And we were almost teammates at University of Michigan because I slept underneath Michigan covers growing up. Like it was my dream through and through. I wanted to play for the Blue and Mace, and it wasn't meant to be. I ended up going OHL, which I didn't even know was a thing until I was 15, 16 years old. How did you end up at Michigan? What was your decision there?
Yeah. No, you know what? It's hard. Like you're telling, for those who are listening and don't know the way that, the CHL and OHL work is when you're 16, you get drafted and you got to make a decision. Like, am I going to go semi-pro? Once you go to the OHL or WHL or Q, your college eligibility is gone. They consider it pro. So you got to make a decision before you even know what you necessarily want. So for me, I was lucky in a sense that one, I knew that I needed time to develop. So I needed extra time, and college, gave you that time where you don't have to turn pro until, 22, 23, sometimes 24 for some guys. Whereas in the OHL, you can only play until you're 20. So it gave me that extra time. And two, I always wanted to go to school. It was always my dream. I was actually committed to Princeton first. And then the coach actually left to go to Penn State. So I, opened up and looked at all these other teams, and Michigan was just kind of something that offered, the top academics along with an elite program and an elite coach who's coached multiple NHL players. And that was always my dream, was to get to the NHL. So what better way to do that than to be coached by somebody who's, arguably the greatest college coach of all time, and to play against players, play with and against players in practice who are first round picks. So we had multiple first round picks and multiple second round picks. So those guys are considered elite NHL prospects. So I was a fifth round pick. I said, if I can go against those guys and compete and practice against those guys every day, then it'll only make me better. And I was lucky that I went to a school like that where I had to face tons of adversity early on and really helped, define me as a person. So it was a great choice, personal choice, but everybody's got a different choice, and yours worked out too, right? So
Well, that's
no right answer.
So really three groups of people kind of, ask for, my thoughts on social media and, with the podcast. And one is like heads of family, moms, dads, with younger athletes, sometimes not athletes, but moms and dads, it was asking for advice about fitness, nutrition, whatever. 20 somethings trying to do something, like other kids my age coming out of college, trying to, do something bigger in the world, friends, family of mine. And then youth players. And, the advice I give them, I guess, on this hockey decision, because I get asked about, why I went to the OHL instead of going to college, is I try to come at it with the same way that you did when you decommitted from Princeton, is you have to make the decision that's personally best for you, and every circumstance is one of one.
Yeah.
Like I was totally ready to go to Michigan. Jacob Trouba commits there. John Merrill, I thought, was going to be a one and done guy, stays through his junior year. And all of a sudden, like 40 minutes on the blue line is, gone overnight.
Yeah.
And it really worked. It worked out for me, going to the OHL. They had more open, blue line with the Plymouth Whalers. There was power play time available. There was, things that I was able to bring with me into my pro career. But so you were originally drafted by Florida. And I was drafted in Washington again, another fifth round pick myself. You ended up going the 4 years at Michigan, right?
Yep.
So you could, you eventually get traded to the Leafs. So talk about your draft day and sort of what that process was over the years to lead to a point where you weren't going to sign with them.
Yeah. Draft day was for me. My draft was 2010. I was playing in junior A for the Hamilton Red Wings, and I had a feeling I was going to get drafted. I wasn't, I was a good player. I played in junior A, but only a couple kids out of our league get drafted every year, so it's not a sure thing by any means. But as your advisor. I mean, my advisor, who's now my agent, but he was my advisor at the time because of the eligibility rules. He told me that there's a good chance that you're gonna get taken. Actually, I think Toronto was one of the teams that had interest in me. But he's like, there's a select teams that are interested. I think there's 5 of them, or whatever, and we think that you have a good shot at getting taken, so you should go to the draft. I said, okay, I'd love to go to the draft. This is really cool. Wow, like imagine if I got drafted, how cool that would be to go back home and tell all your friends, and they'll all see it on the TV and whatnot. And I was like, yeah, this is gonna be awesome. So I ended up going to the draft. It was in LA. Ended up getting picked in the 5th round by Florida. And at the time, I didn't, I just wanted to get drafted. It didn't matter what team drafted me, and I was like, this is pretty cool. Florida Panthers, weather's warm. I could see myself playing here. This is gonna be
Good
awesome.
tax structure.
Yeah, great tax.
You're a smart
structure.
guy. You're a business guy.
Exactly. And I, I got to, it was the first time, I guess, where, your dream almost becomes reality, where it's like, hey, I can actually see a path of me getting to playing in the NHL. Whereas like before, it's kind of like you're just playing hockey and you're just ascending the levels and you're just trying to get better and try to be the best at, in your age group or on your team in order to get to the next level. But when you get drafted, it's like you actually have conversations with people who are running, an NHL team, and it's kind of cool. It's like, whoa, like, I'm this far away from making it. And then you go to your first development camp and you're around all these different prospects, and the number 1 overall pick or the number 1st round pick, whoever it was, is there, and all that stuff. And you got to play against, you got to kind of got to gauge yourself against where other people are at. And I came out of my first development camp being like, hey, I'm not that far off at some of these guys. Like, that was really cool. Anyways, as a college player, you have less contact with your with the team that drafts you, because for me, they saw me as a project that was going to take at least 3 or 4 years before I'd sign a pro contract, and I was more than fine with that. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to get my degree. I wanted to develop. I didn't want to rush anything because I didn't see there wasn't a need for me to rush. I wasn't in a position where I could jump right into the NHL or the AHL. So I said, college is going to be great. So the way that it worked was, you'd have a couple calls every month from your head of player development. Actually, it was Brian Scrudelin at the time and Brian McCabe. So Brian McCabe was a former Leaf, obviously. So it's kind of cool being able to talk to him. So I had conversation with them once every month for like 3 years, go to development camp every year, very limited, contact, but it's cool because they're watching and they're sending notes and support and whatnot. Anyways, so my 4th year comes around. I finished my 4th year, and I had a great 4th year. And this is kind of a decision where, do I sign in Florida, or do I, take this opportunity to explore all my options, kind of like what I did for college. And at the time, Florida had tons of young players in their system. It was a pretty competitive landscape, and I was confident in my abilities, but I wanted to give myself the best chance to succeed, right? And they're a great organization. They treated me very well. Anyway, so we held off on negotiations, and then I got traded to the Leafs on right near the draft. I got a phone call. I think it was from Kyle. So I got a phone call from Kyle Dubas, who's the Leafs were at the time they're restructuring everything. Shanny came on, and things were kind of it was changing. The culture was changing. Everything was changing. I was kind of right at the start of it. So I got a call from Kyle saying that my rights have been traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I looked at where everything was within the organization, and it was kind of just starting. Like, they were just starting to stockpile prospects. I think they just had Willie, or maybe that could have been Willie's draft per se. But anyways, it was just it was kind of open, and it was wide open for anybody to kind of make the team, and I wanted to be a part of something with a bunch of young players, and obviously being in Toronto. that's the cherry on top, and having the opportunity to play for the Leafs was like, oh my God, like, this is amazing. So obviously I signed the contract, signed with them. And that's kind of how things happened. And it was, it worked out obviously for the best. But it was a crazy journey, I guess, from being drafted in 2010 to, not signing my first contract until 2015. So it was 5 years.
And I mean, at the end of the day, it's a decision that's really difficult, and you try to honor, the team that drafted you. But at the end of it's so difficult by the numbers to make it to the NHL. And you know how it is. Like, you can be an NHL player, but if the club's got 4 right wings that are better than you, you're in the minors. Like, that's not the way. The market isn't friendly to, those types of situations. So you gotta, as a player, there's only so many windows you have to exercise leverage, and you got to do what's right. But for you, how exciting was it being a part of, because we played our first game as a Leaf on February 29th, 2016. I remember, people asked me about this day. First off, when I got traded, Lou Lamoriello had called me that night. And it was like midnight. We had just played like a 3-3. Maybe it was a little earlier than that, but we had just played, or was it 3 games of 4 nights? I can't remember now. But I was driving, pull over. Lexi and I were in the car. Actually, Chandler Stevenson was in the car with us too, who stood up at my wedding, plays for the Vegas Golden Knights now. And like, I'm shook up. I'm thrilled. I'm excited to go to Toronto, but I'm nervous. And the conversation was, it was a Sunday night. He goes, "Hey, don't worry about it. Tomorrow we'll fly you out of Hershey. We'll fly you out at like 3-4 p.m. And then you'll play on Tuesday for the Marlies." There was a 10 o'clock school kids game, right? They were playing the 10 a.m. game. So I stay up that night till like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'm just packing my stuff, and Lexi was helping me. And there's no really right way how to handle your trade. You just try to get out of there as best you can with what you got. And then I wake up that Monday morning, the 29th, with like 40 missed phone calls from Kyle Dubas saying, "Hey, change of plans. You're going to play tonight against Tampa. Your flight is at, like 1 o'clock out of Philly, which was 2 hours away. Like, you got to go."
Yeah.
So hustle up, get to the car, and with all the different bags, we weren't proud of being where we were in the standings, but we also weren't the reason. We weren't around all year, I remember it being like almost like a summer all-star tournament. There was like 8 or 9 different logos of bags showing up. Like half our team is introducing each other. "Hey, I'm Connor Carrick. Nice to meet you. I'm a right shot. If you hear me beaver tailing at the point, give me the puck." But talk to me about that game, because that, not only is it nerve-wracking enough, we were at home. You're playing Toronto. I'm worked up. I just got traded that day. I'm all excited. I got the trade juices going.
Oh yeah.
But we're playing Tampa Bay, like a real deal team that night. What do you remember from that night?
Oh, I remember everything. It was my first NHL game. I remember the day before, Kyle gave me a call and, told me that I was going to get called up and I'd be playing in my first NHL game, the following day, being against Tampa Bay. And I remember I was living at home at the time. It was my first year out of college, so I wanted to live at home because I was away from home for 4 years. So sleeping in my my childhood bed where I grew up, and
the race car bed.
Yeah. Well, we upgraded later on, but more or less, I had all these Leaf jerseys hung up in my room because I idolized the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I still slept with all the all the things on the wall and all my childhood stuff, and I was like, this is crazy. Like I've slept in this bed every night and, dreamed about playing in the NHL, and and I'm going to go to bed now. I got to try to fall asleep now. And I'm playing in the NHL tomorrow. It was at the ACC, in front of all my friends and family. This isn't crazy. I remember I got the phone call and I ran downstairs and I, told my dad and my brothers and my mom, and everybody was like going crazy and everybody was excited because, if anything else fails, it's, you're able to, you can say you played in the NHL, and to have that, like, wow, like my dream is coming true tomorrow type of feeling. It's like, this is crazy. Anyways, I remember everything about the game. I remember we got there, I got called up, Willie got called up, Cappy got called up, Nikita Soshnikov got called up. So the 4 of us got called up. You got traded. I think Benny Smith got
Yep.
traded. I think Brooks Light got traded. That like, all that day,
Who
like
else
you
was
said,
there?
we had
Yeah.
like 8 to 10 new players. And luckily, like fortunate for me, I knew the system because the Marlies and the Leafs ran the exact same system. You're going in cold turkey. You have nothing. You're just going out there to
I
play.
was
But
going
like,
rogue. I was doing
yeah,
what I
you're
that was what Bab said,
you're
to his
going
credit.
rogue. Yeah,
He was
you're
like,
going
"Hey, just
rogue.
play. We'll figure out the systems tomorrow."
Exactly. And I remember, there's a lot of nerves and anxiety that go into that because you got like one chance to make a good first impression in a game, obviously. And I remember just kind of taking a breath before and calming myself down and saying, like I said, I'm putting on this jersey. This is what I've dreamed about since I was a kid. I got the chance to wear the Toronto Maple Leafs jersey and go and, we were playing against Tampa, so it was against like those, Stamkos, Hedman, like Kucherov, big name players, and you're going out there and you're like, I remember going out there for the first shift and like come back to the bench like out of breath. I'm like, well, I'm in shape. Why am I out of breath? And it's just because like everything's going, your nerves are going, and
You're all worked up.
you're all
You're
every
yeah.
stride you take is 100%. Whereas in a normal game, like you go 100%, then you know when to glide, you know when to recover a little bit. But your first game, you're going all out all the time. And I remember I think we lost 4-3, but I remember I played pretty well and I was really happy with it. And friends and family were there, and it was just a crazy experience.
I
And
always
you were
thought
part of it. You were
I
part of
was.
it.
I was. You remember my fight?
Yeah, it was
JT
JT
Brown?
Brown, right?
Yeah, he didn't like the hit. We'll talk about that. Maybe I'll have him on. Like I always found the first game advice, funny because everyone tells you just like, hey, go out and enjoy it. Go out and enjoy it. And you're like, enjoy it. This is my dream. I want to play here 10 years. I want to play well tonight. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about, I will enjoy it. I have fun every game.
Yeah.
It's amazing too, the difference between the NHL and the AHL.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh,
people, it is, I know they're, considered the two best leagues in the world and the KHL's in there or whatever, but like the difference between the NHL and the AHL, when you first get up there, like the crispness of pass, the size of player on average, like the speed of the game, it's why we love playing this league so much. It's why it's so special.
Yeah, no,
So-
I completely agree.
So we go through after that game. We actually, I think, fared pretty well given our,
Yeah.
what we had for talent. The rest, I think we both got sent down after was it after the Florida Panthers game in Florida, right? All
Yeah.
four of us, me, you,
Yeah.
Brownie,
16
and
games later.
Renat Valiev.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I had a bonus that if I played one more game, I would have gotten, and I think Lou sniffed that out. He didn't let that one get by him. So I think it was 19 games on the year because I had 3 with Washington, prior to the trade. We go on the Marlies run, which was awesome. That was kind of, my announcing to the organization that I wanted to be around the next year. And that's how I took it anyway. We end up losing to Hershey, actually my old team in the conference final, which to me, to this day, is still one of the hardest losses. Like I thought we had a team to win. It's one of my greatest regrets.
Yeah.
That one really stung. But we both played together on opening night, October 11th, 2016. And there's something about we knew the difference between, okay, you're getting a game because you're getting called up because the team was no good and we're kind of cleansing the organization. We're going to, try and create this like big wave of prospects. But when we made that team in 2016, we knew we had a chance to be good. Like we knew what the conversation was outside our room, but we knew what our expectations were inside the room. I wanted your perspective because I remember, that was Austin Matthews' first game.
Mm-hmm.
That was Mitch Marner's first game. What do you remember about like that training camp and sort of the excitement of that season?
Yeah. I remember, I remember a lot about it. I think going into it, nobody was really a lock to make it. Obviously, it was kind of open season for everybody to try and get on the team. And I had 16 games of experience the prior year, like you said, when we got called up. And I really wanted to make the team and really wanted to, I thought this was my chance to kind of, become an NHL player and really own it and become, a day in, day out player. So I remember I worked really hard that summer. We had a great training facilities, as you know, in Toronto. I got to be around the guys all the time. The guys who stayed here in the summer and trained really hard. And I just remember obviously with Austin getting drafted, with Mitch, coming on, with Willie on, like we had such a young team with all these, high end players. And, I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be a part of this new young wave. And I got a chance to play with Willie and Austin in preseason, and we clicked and we worked well, and made the team and got to play on that line, and we stuck together the whole year. So it was pretty cool, being able to be able to play with those guys. The team that we had that was so young, being able to make the playoffs with all the excitement we had, being able to play against Washington, giving Washington a hard time, taking them all the way to Game 6 when they were one of the top teams in the league. And just I remember I just feeling like it was such a big year of growth for us and for the team and for all the players involved. And we were just so young. So I thought it was so much excitement. The city kind of all rallied behind us. I know you remember that. Like, we didn't really have any expectations, right? It was just kind of, go out there and have fun and learn. And I thought, Babs was great with me. Obviously, I really enjoyed, him, and he really, really helped me, become the player that I am. And so I thought that that year was big for me personally, but big for us as a team.
There were three. I mean, when Matt scored 4 goals in his first game, like I couldn't believe the talent on this kid. Like, it was so sick that he, like, if I even made like one tape to tape pass in my first NHL game, like, I was thrilled. Like, all right, man, I've got it. Like, I'm in the flow now. To score 4, that was one of my favorite memories, just being a part of that game, knowing I was witnessing, the birth of such a high-end player. The outdoor game was that year, which was super special. And then I'd say that first NHL playoff game, that was the first NHL playoff game I ever played in. Like, Washington had such expectations. That building, when they, we skated on the ice for warm-ups, was like, I'll never forget that. And then, so the next year was a little choppy. The team ends up losing to Boston, and that was my last year with the team. And then, you guys ended up losing to Boston the next year, similar fashion. And you've had, and this, I think, I just want to highlight, like we talked earlier about your tough years in college. And we talked about it in like 6 minutes, about 2.5 years of every day coming to the rink. I'm not progressing towards my dream. Yeah. I'm not progressing towards my dream. I'm struggling. I'm fighting it. And you got to live with that all summer long, and that's a long time to have to come to the rink with a bit of doubt. And you're always trying to prove yourself as a player. But I think I've admired the way, you've been able to handle some of that doubt over the course of your career. You've had a couple really tough playoff losses, ACL injury. Adversity is this thing that no one ever wishes on themselves. But, where do the lessons start for you? Like, what have you learned about yourself and really your Leaf team as you've gone through some of these things now? And what advice do you give to, young players that are going through certain scenarios, down seasons, serious injury?
Yeah, that's a big question there. There's a lot of parts to that. I think from a personal aspect and from a hockey standpoint, I think that something that really helped me was having outside interests, having things that I could do outside of hockey, not just being a hockey player. When you have, something that you're so consumed in already, when it's your whole life and it's not going as you expect, it can almost weigh on you in a sense that, I'm not achieving, my, like, outside of hockey, like, I'm not personally succeeding, where that it shouldn't feel like that. Hockey is something that you love to do. Hockey is something that I love to do. Hockey is something that, it's my job, but it's not all encompassing. It shouldn't be all encompassing. You should have other things that can propel you and that can make you feel good about yourself and that you love to do. And it doesn't even have to be from a business, standpoint. It can be from a personal standpoint. If you like to play an instrument and it gives you joy and you like doing that, then go do that. If you like to play video games, go do that. If you like to read books, if you like to learn, if you want to learn another language, go do that. Do things outside of hockey that you can find enjoyment out of. I think that that's something that I really learned in college. I enjoyed going to class. I took classes. I enjoyed, doing well in school and succeeding in school. And that alleviated some pressure. Whereas hockey wasn't my entire life. It was something that I really wanted to do. I really wanted to make the NHL. It was my biggest dream. But I can only control what I can control. I can control how hard I work. I can control my attitude that I bring to the rink, and I can control how present I am in the moment. And those are the three things that I told myself. I may not make the NHL. Like, I'm going to do all these three things. Like, I'm going to work my bag off. I'm going to bring a positive attitude and be positive around my teammates. Nobody likes to be around somebody who's always bringing them down and negative.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do those two things, and I'm going to be present in the moment. And if hockey works out for me, then that's great. And I'm going to give myself every opportunity in the world to make that happen. But you know what? Sometimes it's, for not everybody's going to make the NHL, right? Like, it's just not in the cards for everybody. But for me, I knew that if that wasn't the case, I was going to be okay, because I had other things that I wanted to do. I had other things that I like to do. And I think that that's really, really important. So, for me, I worked my bag off. I had a positive attitude, and I kept getting better because of those two things. I kept improving. I kept working out. I kept, getting stronger. I kept getting faster. And I figured out, how I was going to be an effective player in the NHL, and it ended up working out for me. And that's awesome. And I couldn't be happier, obviously, because I'm doing what I love. But at the same time, if it didn't, and if it didn't go my way, and I didn't get maybe some of the bounces, and it just didn't, I would be okay, because I would have other things that I like to do, and I would still be around the game of hockey. And I'd want to go into management or coaching or whatever, and still do other things. But I think that the most important thing is that you realize that you have to give yourself every opportunity to be able to do something. You have to work as hard as you can. And, sometimes it doesn't work out, but sometimes it does, right? And then from a team perspective, I think as a team, that year against Washington, we really grew. We really, realized, like, hey, we may be young, but we're pretty damn good. Like, we can play against, the team's best. And even though we lost, to them, it was great motivation to come back and to get better for the next year. And we improved. I think we had a 100-point season the next year, I think it was.
Yep.
And we were one of the top teams, and we played against Boston, who was a great team, and we took them, all the way to Game 7, right? And then the following year, we took them all the way to Game 7 again, and it didn't go our way. Game 7s are tough, especially when you're going into their building. But each year was different. I thought we improved every year, and I think it's important from a team aspect that you improve, and every year that you get better, expectations are higher, and that's just how life works, right? You got to live up to those expectations.
Yeah, that pressure's a privilege, and I always felt that way about playing in Toronto. I would get asked about, how do you engage with the media or the fans, and it's like, as players, you want people to care about what you're doing on the ice. Like, you want your fans to love you. We love, we cherish that. That's what we dream of growing up. No one, dreams of scoring in front of 10 people.
Yeah.
You want the fans to go nuts, and you want the city to have a massive parade after. And, that's where I always admired, your consistency was it's can be frustrating advice at times, and how simple it is, but for young athletes, and it applies across a lot of things, like your effort and your attitude and your desire to do it with detail. Like, that's all you have at your disposal to be controlled for your development. It's all you really need.
Yeah.
I always thought you did such a nice job of that. And really this podcast was inspired by, a little bit of, your launch of the gaming company, your launch of, your charitable function with the Zack Hyman. What's it? The Zack Hyman, I got it written down. Golf Classic.
Mm-hmm. Charity
Golf Classic was... I felt I was missing a little bit of that outside interest. I was missing some of the momentum you can gain from, like, learning how you learn and having something else to draw positive, momentum off of. Because the season, 82 games, like, it's such a grind. You're going to have, ups and downs.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster.
So what has that been like, really, in terms of the E11 gaming company? What was the launch of that, and how involved are you, like, on the day-to-day, in terms of, like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. No, I mean, it was awesome. It is awesome. I'm still in it. I think that, we touched about it a little bit. I think that it's important that you find things that you're passionate about. and whether you make them into, business endeavors or not, I always love video games. I always love playing video games. It just happened that there was an opportunity in the space, in the gaming space, was just developing. I said, there's an opportunity here to start a company and to see where it goes. And I had a good friend, Oliver Silverstein, who was in the space, and I knew I wouldn't be able to do this full time because I'm a full time hockey player. I knew that I needed somebody that I could trust, that could, properly run the business and operate all the day to day things, where I can, manage the big picture stuff and get on a call once a day and kind of go over our direction. But I can't, I can't do this every day. I have a job. I'm a professional hockey player, so I was lucky that I had a friend like that who was in the space and who wanted to, start this business with me. So we started 11 Gaming. We've since gone on to acquire SoaR Gaming, and that's kind of part of our network now. We have two companies, 11 and SoaR, and I can go into it for hours, but I don't know. I don't want to bore you with all of it, but it's really exciting. I love it, and like you said, it provides like outside momentum when you're at the rink all the time and you go away from the rink and you do something else and you're refreshed and excited to go back to the rink. I think that's really powerful. When you have that extra motivation, when you want to go work out because you've done something else and you're excited to be at the rink and you're excited to go on the ice because, it's not all about that one thing, right?
Well, and that's something that I try to embody and advise when asked about young players, is like, try to balance, try to be wide ranging, so you have a wide skill set of tools and tricks to pull from without having a lack of focus, which is something that I think you balance so well. And in terms of a lot of the reason I've launched this podcast now is the concept of leverage, which we've talked about a couple times, where it's like, you're not going to be a Maple Leaf forever. You're not going to play forever. And there's an opportunity cost at waiting to pursue some of these dreams. And you lose out on some of the momentum you can gain from starting this now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, listen, like, hockey is my main focus. Obviously, it's my job. I wake up every day and I think about how I can, better myself as a player. But at the same time, you can only put your body through so much. You can only work out for so long. You can only go on the ice for so long. Like, you have to give your body a break and let it recover and let it relax. And when you're doing that, you can, do things with your mind and, stimulate yourself in other ways. So I write children's books. I read a lot. I started a gaming company. I do things in my spare time that aren't, they're not hard on my body. They're not, they're more just to keep me busy and to keep me active and to keep me, to give me interest outside, like I said, so that I can come to the rink and I can be fully focused on doing my job. I think that that's really important, and it goes, not just with your physical health, but with your mental health. When like you said, when things aren't going well at the rink, if you're all encompassed and everything that you do revolves around your life at the rink, then it's hard not to bring that home. So to have the ability to have outside interests that propel you and that motivate you, while at the same time understanding and maintaining that your main job and the reason you're getting paid and the thing that you love to do is hockey. You have to be able to balance it too, and you have to prioritize hockey, obviously, but it doesn't mean that it's all encompassing. It doesn't mean that you can't do other things. I think that that's something that's maybe been frowned upon in the past, but now, and I think that in light of mental health and everything that's going on, I think that you see more hockey players exploring interests outside of hockey and going on social media and doing other things. And I think that it's great. I think that you're a great example of that, with your social media pages and what you're starting with the podcast, that it's okay to be vulnerable and to do other things. You don't have to you don't have to just do one thing because everybody has to think that you're just focused on one thing, right? I think that in all walks of life, you look at CEOs of big companies, they have outside interests that that they explore, and it actually benefits them because when they go to their job, they're all in, right?
And that's what I decided, because I did feel that guilt. Like, I did feel, when I was raised and coached growing up, it was hockey 24/7. How can you be better? It was eat, sleep, dream, train, all about hockey all the time. And finally, I just decided that the pain of waiting was too much. Like, in my opinion, I was being small. I was allowing, fear of judgment to, enter into the equation. What's kind of been the catalyst in all of your different ventures, whether it's writing children's books, your charity event, or your gaming companies? Like, what took you? What do you think it is about you that took you from interest to making it like a pillar in your life, really something you do every day?
I think that, engaging in the community is something that's really important. I think that, the first thing I did outside of hockey was I wrote a children's story, and I kind of fell into it in a sense where, I wrote this story as a short story competition that won in grade 8, and I worked on it through high school and got it published. So before I was even a professional hockey player, I was a writer and an author. So, going into that, I knew that teams already knew about that, and it didn't make any of them hesitant about, drafting me or signing me. It wasn't. So I said to myself, if I can be a writer and an author and I can excel at hockey, why can't I do other things in the community? So we started a charity golf tournament. We raised, a ton of money. Sick Kids is one of the benefactors. And it's been, extremely positive. So if you're able to, I think that the key is managing your time and understanding, where, how much time you have to put into things. And for me, it's always, when I'm at the rink, we're at the rink, as like we're not at the rink all day. We're at the rink for a select, let's say 4 hours. So when I'm at the rink, I'm 4 hours all in. Like when I'm putting my work in, I'm doing everything that I need to do to maximize my ability. And maybe I do a little bit of more when I come home, but I understand how much, my body can take and how much is going to make me better. And then I have, tons of hours to do other things. So let's explore them. Let's explore what I like, and let's explore, how we can help our community. And as a hockey player, as a role model, starting the charity golf tournament was a no-brainer for me. And then, it's been fun.
How do you manage the blend of both? Like, are you someone where you hard schedule in your time? Like, this is okay, I'm going to train from 8 to 10, and then I'm going to work on the gaming company are you real scheduled, or do you are you go off more off feel?
Yeah, I always prioritize, the hockey workouts, whatever I need to do. So like now it's a little bit in whack with everything that's going on. So just for instance, for my routine, I always wake up pretty early. I take the dog for a walk in the morning. A lady goes on her morning walk because she's the queen, and whatever she says goes. So she barks at me. Yeah, you know how it is with hogs. So I got to take her out and then have breakfast, and then I work out. So, and we have a workout plan from the team, or do your own thing. And then I put my work in the morning for my hockey and skills and workout. And then, from noon onwards, I have time to schedule other things. So I have, business calls for 11 Gaming. I think about ideas and how I want to write, my 4th book. I'm working on that. And then I've actually been able to, mesh, now with everything that's going on, I've been able to mesh some of the charity stuff with gaming. So I play in charity gaming tournaments, whether it's awesome. Fortnite or Call of Duty, and just doing something I like. And I stream now because I'm able to interact with fans, and fans enjoy it, and everybody, I just enjoy doing that stuff. And it's not taking away from anything that I do in hockey. It's just supplementing it, and it's making me a well-rounded person, and in tune. It actually makes me a better hockey player because I have other outside interests, right?
Well, and holistically, just like mentally, physically, spiritually, you have, you lean on the love of your family and of your dog. You lean on, your habits around sport for your physical health and work. I mean, working out for us is just second nature, but for a lot of people, it's a missing component to their well-being. And then the mental side, when you can have other interests that you can borrow momentum from, I found it really rewarding, even in the young, birth of this podcast. Tell me, I was at your wedding, and I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of my skill set, that I may end up like, so the podcast is this venture. Then my next goal will be to launch like a for hire business where I could almost like Cameo, but for wedding crashers.
Great idea. I have a bunch of film behind the scenes. It didn't make it into the actual wedding video because this was some of the later night later night filming, some iPhone filming, and you are an elite dancer. And not only that, I had comments from my non-hockey friends who just experienced it for the first time, being like, "Man, that Connor Carrick can move." I'm like, "Yeah, he can move.
Man,
He
I had
can
a
move."
blast at your wedding. We had
Yeah,
such a great time. I was for you and Alana. How's she doing? What is life now with the dog? What have you guys learned about your relationship?
yeah. You know what? We've had her now for actually, this is crazy. So we had her since October now. So she's 10 months now, and she actually tore her ACL also.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
So
The recovery.
she's just like her dad. She went to the dog park and it was icy and she was playing with a bigger dog. Anyways, she ended up tearing it, which is, just terrible luck, but she's fully normal now.
Good.
She does rehab. So she went in like the pool. So it's so funny because like I did all this stuff on the treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
She's like an underwater dog treadmill. She does laser. They put the laser on your knee like I did. So it's like, it's so funny because I just think about, as a person doing all the stuff and then they have all the stuff for dogs, which is crazy. Anyways, yeah, the routine's great. We're both on the same page. I spend a lot more time with her, which is nice, as I'm sure you can imagine. You and Lex are probably spending lots of time together. So lots more family time and yeah, cooking more. Just it's just
What have
it's
you guys been making? What have you guys been making?
I actually baked a cake for her birthday, if you can imagine.
That's a hey man, effort
From
counts. Was it any
scratch.
good from scratch?
It
Don't
was
tell
okay. Yeah, it
Lexi
was
that.
good. I liked it. She liked it, but like it wasn't like. Actually, I'll show you a picture. It was pretty professional. It was
Don't
good.
undercut yourself.
No. It was like I made the icing from scratch. So maybe baking isn't my. Actually, I really didn't like baking. It's way too monotonous. Like you got to
Well,
measure.
you can't
Oh,
go off the.
it tasted good, but like it's a lot of work, and the cleaning up after is like no.
Yeah, I've been on the cleaning duty mostly with being at home. Lexi
But
does most of the cooking.
yeah, but like for meals, a bunch of pasta, steaks, salmon. I mean, not the gourmet cooking that you have going on in your household that I've seen on Instagram. I mean, that's next level.
We just plug and chug, man. We follow a couple of like our favorite paleo Instagrammers, and we
Yeah,
got a couple books around the house. We kind of just open it up. And I mean, my father-in-law is a chef by
yeah.
trade, so I usually call him like, "Hey, I got halibut. What the hell do I do with this thing?"
I've seen him
He's
chop
pretty
up a
great.
steak before, a big slab of meat, and just go to work on it.
Oh yeah.
It's wild.
Well, Himes, another question I've been asking every guest is, we are both on quarantine. We haven't talked much about it. We're on quarantine right now with the NHL on pause. And I've been personally both like grateful for the family time, grateful for what I've learned about myself, grateful for the opportunity to launch this podcast. But there are definitely certain days where I can feel the grief of the world. A lot of people are really struggling right now. It's been a big chop in routine. What, has there been a thought or an emotion that's really lit you on fire lately? Like, is there something you're really passionate about? What's next? Is there something that you're really doing right now that you've loved? What has been on your mind lately?
Just I guess I mean it's a lot of self-reflecting. It's kind of crazy. Um, as an athlete, as you know, you really think that's sports kind of are bigger than everything else, right? And when all of a sudden sports get put on halt, it's really like a like whoa, like what just happened moment, right? Like I remember we were ready to play Nashville in Toronto, and the game got canceled, and everything was kind of just canceled, and everything's just been on pause since. Um, and it's just like it's pretty humbling when that happens, and when you can't do something that you love to do every day. Like we haven't nobody skated in 6 weeks, and that's other than my injury, that's probably one of the longest times I've
Mhm.
not gone on the ice. So like yeah, you have to. I think it just puts into perspective how much more you have to be a well-rounded person. I think that I actually got a message from Don Moore, and he's doing some seminar,
Yeah,
and
next week I'm
yeah,
jumping on it. Yeah.
right. And I thought it was a great idea, just about how you can think about life after hockey, right? Because hopefully we both have long careers. We're both still young, but when the season stops and when things stop, like you have so much more time in your hands, right? You're working out, but there's so much time in the day, right? So just thinking about that, and just spending time with the family, being home, a lot more is different, and it's just trying to interact with people online socially, But yeah, just trying to be in a routine, and I think we'll get through this. I think everybody just has to have that, that positive attitude that
Yeah.
there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that everybody's practicing the safe policies and whatnot, and just stick with it and stay positive, and we'll all get through this. That's kind of the message, I guess.
Yeah, that's been really how I've taken it. You get asked the question all the time as a player, like, what do you want to do when you're done? And I've tried to maintain like skill with rollerblading and old school stick handling in the street, like I would when I was a kid, and then, training the best I can with, the equipment and the space I have, but also it's like a once in a lifetime experiment. It's almost like hopefully a fake retirement, where we're forced into this, and I'm trying to learn, who I am and without the sport right now. But Hymes, I got to tell you, like, you're a horse to play with. You were always had this unassuming style of leadership, and you exude that well-roundedness as a person, and I think you're a great role model, for teammates, for young players. I appreciate, you talking a little bit about the guilt sometimes that's there at the beginning of, I mean, it's amazing, right? Like, just goes to show how committed the culture of hockey is, that you were concerned possibly that people cared that you were an author, a children's book author on the side. Like, that's how dedicated this sport demands you to be, which is, a blessing and a curse. But thanks for your time today, man. I always loved our time as a Toronto Maple Leaf. I got moved out of town, but I hope you have a long career there, being able to be from there and play, with the jersey you grew up worshiping. That's so special. And I wish you guys all the best, man. You guys got a lot of good people in that room.
Appreciate it, brother. Thanks for having me on. This is, I think I'm one of the first, right?
You are. Yep. You'll be, I think we're going to release
number 4.
Number 4.
Thanks, God.
Number 4.
God chimed in with number 4.
Yes, he's going to make everything run smooth. But no, I appreciate you having me on, and likewise, always enjoyed our time together. And I think this is great what you're doing. I think that it's exciting, and I've been tuning in and excited to be a part of the early goings. And I know this is just the start. So congrats to you, and I'll be a listener and a fan.
Thanks, man. Well, and before I let you go, I do want to. How can fans, friends, family reach out to you either via social media or to support your charities? How can they find you?
Yeah, both charities have their own pages. So you can, look on my page, and they have their own separate handles, but feel free to reach out to me on socials. I'll check the inboxes and whatnot. And look forward to connecting. And then also I'm always on Twitch, so you guys can come say hi, and you'll get a live response from me. So always a fun time.
That's awesome. Thanks, Hymes.
All right. Thanks, C's.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you to my guest, Zack Hyman. Something I missed today talking with Zack. We didn't hit the famous debacle over the belt. So Hymes and I, with Lou Lamoriello, used to run this treadmill test in training camp, where you would basically do this treadmill run till failure. And there were other tests involved too. And basically all the scores were weighted. And there was one year I won, and there was one year where Zack, couldn't compete. He had something, I think, going on with his foot at the time. And then the year prior, I thought I had this belt locked up. And it was sweet. It was this real WWE belt. I've still got it at home. And Hymes had run. You had to run all the way to exhaustion. So anything over like 18 minutes on this treadmill test was a good score. And you had this heart rate thing hooked up, and you'd see it skyrocket. And it was pretty, I don't want to say scary, but you'd see your heart rate get all the way up to like 205 beats per minute. You'd have like your max heart rate, what was proposed, by your age and all that. And then you'd see like in red, you're at like 106% of your max heart rate. So it was kind of freaky. And so Hymes, who to his credit is a horse physically. He's got a motor with no end. He is very strong. It's how he's really built his career. But the treadmill stopped on him at like 17:30 something, and he was cruising. Like, I think he likely was on pace to beat me that year. So in theory, Zack Hyman never really officially topped my scores because they calculated that he could have kept going based on his pace and heart rate, which is probably true. But I also never truly beat him because the next year he couldn't compete. So in terms of who the fittest Leaf was, it was a conversation me, him, and Connor Brown always used to get at each other's throats over. We had a competitive group. But that's kind of the treadmill fittest Leaf in camp story. So I wanted to put that to bed. I also wanted to thank, these are not sponsored. Again, there are some small companies that I really love right now. Jana Webb with Joga. Joga Jana is her Instagram. She does a lot of online courses, and it's something that I've used while here on quarantine, just in my own home on rainy days to do yoga and that. And then Gratisfied. It's a bar. It's like an almond butter bar that I bought online that a friend recommended to me. And I'm not really a bar guy. Like I feel like I've tried them all and just grown up eating too many of them. I got sick of them. But this one in particular, it's really clean ingredients, low carb, which kind of supports the way that I feel my body, higher fat, and it's a fantastic product. So those are, two places if you're looking to stay healthy during quarantine, you can look there. So, and those are a couple resources that I've used, on quarantine to stay healthy and stay vibrant the best I can. Colin, you keep thinking I'm saying Kyle with my Midwest accent, but Colin, I love the hat you're wearing, the support the locals. I tell me a little bit about the brand because they're up north by you. I gotta, see if they can ship something south for me.
Yeah, we need to get you something. Yeah, I love this lid. I love the message that is behind the brand. This is actually a guy I used to work with. We're not really, really close. I've been rooting for him from afar. But a local shop from my hometown, Barrie, Ontario, a brand that is basically designed about the message is about supporting local. And they even have this message plastered on their window of their shop in downtown Barrie. It says, support the locals is about building a stronger and a more vibrant community. We believe in looking out for our neighbors and extending a hand. The goal is to encourage everyone to support local, whether it's a restaurant, a farmer, or a local shop owner. We all have a vested interest in making our community a better place to live and grow. The people are the city. And I think that's a perfect analogy for what we're trying to do with this segment is share people in businesses that, are making an impact with us and, help them get through this COVID crisis. And he's got sick hats, they got shirts and sweaters, they got the support the local brand. They also have an easy living brand. Heck, I got a wallet that he made by hand.
That's beautiful.
That's made out of leather, which is a beautiful thing. So feel free to check that out if you want to get some new swag and support a local guy from Barrie, Ontario that's trying to make his dream.
Got to support the dream doers, man. That's what we're trying to do. Give people, a little bit of insight to our guest, and that's beautiful. The hat is sick too. Like that. Come on, that's what counts.
Yeah, Mikey, if you're listening to this, we need some swag.
So a couple ways again, you can shop local. Vote with your dollar. Try and support our local dream doers, best you can out there. So thanks again for our listener. If you're still with us, those are a couple brands. If you're sick of not doing laundry from wearing the same sweatpants 6 or 7 days in a row like I've been, or if you're trying to maintain your health goals, those are some people and some resources that I've used here on quarantine that I've really loved. Again, if you have liked this podcast, please share. Please send it to mom and dad. Teach them how to podcast. I was actually on the phone with my mom about 10 minutes before we sat down with Zach today, trying to explain her how you cannot watch the video on Apple Podcasts. She was trying to explain to me how she was basically watching TV on the radio because she was convinced that she did. I had to explain to her that our podcast also lives on YouTube and how that was working. So anyway, share with friends and family, comment if you so please. I am so grateful for your support, and thanks for listening.